Well, here we are in the shack. I've just had a package arrive through the post, which I believe is the review version of the MTK1 receiver kit. So Brian has kindly sent me this for evaluation purposes. So let's get it open and see what's inside. So here we go. Here's the kit. It is what I thought it was. BATC kit Mark 1 for MiniTiouner. Just add DVB-S Shop or DVB-S or Sharp Nim. And there we are. So that's how it arrives. So I'll get this over to the bench and we'll see what's inside. Right, let's open her up, have a look inside. So we've got some kit details. There we are, that's what's on there. So we go to the forum for information. So we'll have a look at that in just a minute. We've got a bag marked A. The bags are all marked up, fairly simple. So J, G, so we'll have to put them in some sort of order in a minute. But all the bags are marked with letters. So all the bits have arrived, excellent, even better. So this is a full kit actually. I thought it was going to be a couple of bits short as they hadn't arrived, but it looks like everything has arrived. So there we are. So let's just lay these out in some sort of order. There we are, there's all the bits. But, you know, just not every letter is present. So I imagine that's correct. There's no B and there's a couple of other letters. But we shall go and get the instructions online and see if we've got all the bits. Okay, I was getting a bit ahead of myself. In the last couple of minutes the instructions have arrived. So now I've printed them out. We've got all the bits there. So I can see that part B is the Nim sockets, which were, when it was posted to me, they were out of stock. They're probably in by now actually. But so there's a couple of bits, there's a note from Brian, there's a couple of bits not in the kit because it's going out before they're ready, of course. So I shall have a look through and see which bits. I've probably got most of the bits here anyway. So they'll all come in. Obviously your kits will all be fully populated. I'll say this is quite an early thing and I'm keen to get on with it to prove that if there's anything that needs to be changed, it's changed, and then Brian will get the ball or the kits in the BATC shop as soon as possible. So we'll have a look. It's quite comprehensive. The numbers of pages here. So that's very good. That'll obviously be on the website. Yes, we've got it. That's very good actually. There's a section which tells you exactly what's in each bag So I'll just go through those, make sure I've got all the parts in stock. Not that it'll stop me from from carrying on anyway, but I imagine I've probably got all the bits here anyway. I've done a few prototypes. So, and sections on testing and setting various bits up, and a little overlay as well. So let's get all the bits in place and come back and have a look. Right, here we are. Everything is now in place. It was only the sockets. There'll be two of these, two Nim sockets. I've manufactured one by a little bit of filing and sanding. I've made it into a single one, but the one in the kit will be two shorter ones. It makes no difference, of course. So I've got two single rows, sanded them down and glued them together. So that will do for the test. So that's item B. The rest was actually all there. So it was only that one item that was a bit slow in coming from the supplier. I say it's probably there by now, but we wanted to get on. So there's all the bits. So here are the instructions. This is version 10, so I'm not going in completely cold by the look of it. So there explains all you. We can read that for yourself. But here's the parts. So there we are. We can see B was the Nim sockets, which will be two shorter ones in the final kit. So it's pretty well laid out there actually. So my job is to find some problems. So you heard the instructions. I'm going to have a read of this now. Everything's in there. There's a few notes, plenty bits and pieces, and then the contents of each bag, and where there are spares, it will say. So that looks pretty good, and even the colour codes for us. So well, there we are. This looks excellent so far, but my job is to try and find some fault so that we can then Brian will make any changes. But nothing so far. I haven't found anything wrong so far. So off we go then. I better have a read first and then see what the next step is. Okay, so we've had a little read of the instructions, just about to make a start. The only other things you'll need to also order from the BATC shop at the same time is the tuner module, the Nim Tuner module itself, one of these, which I think are now back in stock, and a pre-programmed FT module, such as this. This is actually one I've done myself because they're quite easy to do. It's not that difficult. But there are instructions of how to do that as well. But you just as well, because it's they're not a bad price on there. So just those two things, and I've also got a sharp module as well, which the next one I make will probably have this one in, only because I've got the actual module. But most people will be using these, which I've had very good results with, I have to say. So these are very good actually, as far as I'm concerned. So which is just as well really, as that's what we've got. So that's it. Those are all the parts are now in place. So we'll start unwrapping and having a look. Right, here we are then. Here's the first look at the board. This is what a lot of people will be interested to see. So here's the first, I'll say the first look of it there. You can see the Nim Tuner goes on sideways on the end there. There are sockets provided. You can go straight on if you've a mind to, I'm sure. But be nice with the sockets. So here's the board. You'll be able to buy this on its own if you desire. So this is MiniTiouner V1.0, designed by Jean-Pierre, F6DZP, and the PCB by Brian G4EWJ. And these are exceptionally good quality PCBs actually. You must have had them done the same as the DigiThin, which is also a very high quality board. You can take bits on and off of these without any damage at all, which I have done on the other ones. So this is my first one of these. Looks the business. So there we are. That's there we are. Just the number there on there. Oh, there we are. That's it. I had it the right way to start with. So very good. I say you'll be able to buy these on their own if you don't want the whole kit. But the kit is very comprehensive and is suitable for really anyone, because there's no really difficult bits to solder as far as I'm aware. I shall let you know as I go along, but it's mainly through hole components in a traditional manner. The power supply has been modified from Jean-Pierre's version specifically to utilise easier to use components. So one of them needed a little mod. In fact, I've got one here actually, a prototype, and we had to use, or we're using this 1-volt regulator, which is a fairly small little surface mount component that could have been included on the board, of course, but it was decided to go for easier to solder. People that you know, it makes it more usable for sort of anyone really to do this. So there's the board, and I said Brian has just emailed me. I've just got the instructions through, but he hasn't actually put one together yet as yet. He probably will get it done before I do, but there we are. So we shall have a go and see if I can I've got to be very picky and try and find any issues at all in the instructions or anything else, so make it easy. But generally there's not too many. I had a job to find anything wrong with the DigiThin. That was so I imagine this will be similar, but I shall be as fussy as I can and report back, and then probably no one will ever know because it'll probably be changed. But if I find anything on this review, because this is a review of the pre sort of first run, so I shall report back. So there's the board anyway. That's that. So let's get soldering. Okay, so the first thing to do is to pull out any pins that you don't need. Use the board to let's do it this way around. Use the board to decide which pins are not needed, and remove the pins that are no longer needed. And on that side you've only got those few at that end, so that's just that row there. So I just pulled them all out, just used a pair of pliers and just pulled the pins out. So that's that. Okay then, that's the first step done. We've soldered the Nim socket on, so you can see they just go in line with those. You'll have two sockets. I can't evaluate the actual socket you'll be getting because or sockets, because they'll be slightly different to mine, but I doubt it will make any difference. So there we are. That's the tuner on there. What I'm going to do is remove that first. I don't think I'll try and do it with one hand, so I'll just take that off. Okay then, so that I've taken that off, I'll put that to one side for the time being, the tuner, and then work on it with the module off the rest of the time. So I'll say that's you can see, don't know how close I can go in, but you can see how that's soldered on there. There we are. So fairly straightforward operation that. On to the next bit. Right, so it's recommended you just fit the parts in order. So A is the board, B is the socket, and C is some surface mount ones, but they're not too small fortunately. So there's C14, 15 and 16. Everything else is on the top. Everything's fairly clearly labelled. So it's just a question of finding the appropriate capacitors there. You see most of the bits are on the top here. So we'll get those soldered on. Note there's one spare one in case you you get one fly off somewhere or another. So I'll find out where they go and get those on. Okay, for some people the little surface mount bits may be the trickiest. So the technique I employ is just tack one side down. I've just tacked the top down there of those, and then because you can always move it once you've got only one side tacked, you can move it around to your heart's content really. So tack, or this one's just got the top, these ones have just got the top tacked. Just you don't have to be too fussy really, just tack the top and then have a look to see that the components are lying flat. If they're not, it's very easy to maneuver them into position if you've just got the one side done. If you do both sides you'll be stuck, so have a look and make sure you haven't got one end sticking up or anything like that. These ones look okay, but it's very easy to get it hanging in the air or sideways or something like that. So just tack just one side. You don't have to be, I say, too fussy. So then you can have a good look around them. It's amazing how you look from one angle and it looks alright, and then you have a look sideways or something and it's stuck up in the air. So get that, and when you're happy with that, solder the other side properly and then go back over the bit you've tacked. That's what I shall do next. Right, okay, we've done that. We've gone over both bits. So that's the little surface mounts on. Can't really get in very tight with this camera. I'll see how far we go before we lose the focus. Oh, that's not too bad actually, is it? You can see, there we are, we've done both sides of those, so it's not really that difficult to do. I'm not using any fancy soldering iron, just a normal one I got from Maplin, so you don't need anything fancy for this. There we are. Right, next is a few resistors. I don't need to show too much about this really, so we'll get those in. The resistors, that's item D. There we are, we've got the colours. You may get different ones, so you just put them on a meter if you're not sure. It's sometimes wise to do that anyway, but so we'll get those resistors on. Right, for those of you who haven't done much of this before, the easiest way is to prepare the resistor like that. Just bend it over to fit, put them in the appropriate places like that, and then just slightly splay the legs, and then they will stay there while you solder them, and then they'll stay reasonably flat with any luck. So just get the last one in and then solder them up. Okay, they're in. I haven't soldered them yet because I've just noticed one little bit there. When fitting R2, to make sure you've got enough room for that socket there, just as you solder it, just hold it over slightly and then solder those up, and just sort of tack one side, and then that won't cause any obstruction to fitting the socket then. Okay, next we're on to E now. Next we fit the little diodes, and we notice that the band is marked on the PCB, so you can't really go wrong. So there we are, so they'll go in there. Right, they're in. Pay attention to where D1 is, and ZD2 is next to it, which is obviously the Zener, which will be coming up next. So D1 is down there and D2 is there. Obviously ZD2 and ZD1 are over there, and they're the next ones to go in. Same arrangement, they're marked where the band is, so it's pretty straightforward. Right, so now we're on to the Zeners. ZD1 is this one. You can see he's got a band on him. So there we are. He's also marked with the red there. And this one is an unusual one, as it's bidirectional, can go either way round. although given a choice you have got you have got colours on the end if you wish, but in theory it can go either way around. Right, just a little point to watch here on ZD1. It is, it's not soldered in yet. You'll notice there's a little hole there, a little plated through hole, so make sure you don't fit the diode down that hole, because it goes to the one further along, so that'll be covered up when you do it. But so to watch out for that. That's a mistake I've very nearly made. Okay, next is G, which is to fit U1, the 74HC10. Unusually for me, I'm going to solder it straight in, as that's how it comes for the kit. Generally, I will always use a socket to on any ICs. However, for the purpose of this, I'm going to solder it straight in and see how we get on. I'll probably not be too careful with it deliberately, and see if anything bad happens. That's the thing. So we'll just get him soldered up. Okay, so he's in. Against my better judgment, we've soldered him straight in. But with a socket, there may be clearance issues. You'd have to check that if you decide to go that way. But I've never had any problem with one of these, so I was sort of happy enough to have a go. So there he is, soldered in. So next is the voltage regulators, H. So you've got 3 different types in there, and the fixing hardware, which is quite nice. So we'll get on and find homes for them. So I've identified their positions. That one is fairly obvious where that one goes due to its number of legs. These two look very similar, but one has got 3 in the name, and the other has got 50. So obviously that's the 5 on, that's the 3.3, and Brian has put the numbers on there. My numbers, they're the same device, but the numbering can be somewhat different. However, it's fairly obvious what they are by their numbers where they go. And the next thing is to bend their legs to fit. So we just sort of line them up and then gauge. They're not exactly lined up at the minute, but line them up and gauge where the bend should come. This one looks fairly obvious actually. So we'll get those done. So bend their legs and then offer them up to make sure they'll go in alright, and then I shall next add a small amount of heatsink compound to the underside and bolt them in place, and then solder them in after they're bolted down. That's the best way. Then there'll be no stresses on them. So they look like they're going to fit alright. So we'll just put a bit of heatsink compound on the back, just a small smear, and bolt them in. So there they are. They're all soldered in. You have a bit of a job to watch the heatsink compound. It tends to get out everywhere, but you can clean any excess off afterwards. So that's the voltage regulators in. Let's look on the list and see what's next. Right, well here's the little switcher regulator. It's already had a little mod done to it. The pot has been replaced by a resistor, so there's nothing to do there. So that's quite handy. You notice the square inductor there is also marked on the PCB, so it will go there. So according to the instructions, next thing is to fit some resistor legs through, ones that we cut off earlier, and mount it 3mm above the board. So I shall get on with that. Right, so I've tacked 4 little legs in there, and then slide that down and put a little spacer or something just to keep it square, then fit the other 4 and then solder it all up. So there we are, the board is mounted on there, so it's got its little pads and seems to match in quite nicely actually. So there's that little board. Right, that's it. On to the next phase. Right, the next phase being J, which is simply to fit an LED. So let's get him in. Right, so there's the LED place. One leg is longer than the other. According to the instructions, the longest leg goes north. So we'll pop him in. Okay, that's the LED in. And the next is bag K, which is the little ceramic capacitors. And they need to be fitted with as short a lead as possible, so fairly close to the board, or as close as they'll go really, to minimise their lead length. So let's get those in. So that's all the little ceramics in. So there's just a few about. So not really too much to see under there at the moment. So get them in as close as you can. And next we're on to the L, which is the 26-pin headers. Right, these are the ones that are supplied in the kit, so those are the ones that I shall be fitting. I tend to use the ones I normally use on the Digilight, which are these little green ones. Are fractionally shorter, so that may be of some interest if you're tight for space. But we shall go with the ones that come in the kit, give them a go. They look perfectly adequate. Right, that's the sockets in. For the FT, it can be a good idea just to check that they all line up and it plugs in all right. So that's a good idea, but we'll leave that off for the time being and carry on to the next step. Now the next step being just to fit a couple of headers. So we'll get those in. Again, the same technique as when you put these in. Solder one pin in and check that it's square, and the same with the small one, just check that it's actually square, same as you did with these, although the instructions for these is one diagonal, so the idea there is just to hold it in place with 2 fingers, tack the corners, and then they'll stay there then. So we'll just finish putting the rest of the soldering on those, get those in. Okay, so they're in, soldered up, a couple of headers. This one supplies LMB volts, or if you want to use an amplifier up the line, which is what I do all the time actually, or even to supply power to your up converter if you're using it on 70sems. So you'd have the link in there, and that's for expansion for future use perhaps. So there we are, and the next step is a very easy one, is to fit the resettable fuse. So always a good idea. So we'll just get him in. So there we are, that's the resettable fuse. That's him there, that's where he lives, FS1. Right, next is step O, which is the electrolytic capacitors. There's 5 in the bag, and 1 is for future use, so just put that one to one side. We'll take the 4. You'll notice the capacitors are marked with a bar there denoting the positive, and the capacitors themselves are, as always, marked with the negative. However, the longer leg is usually the positive. It is in this case, and so it's fairly straightforward to put the positive in there. So the board's marked positive and the capacitors are marked negative. Nothing unusual about that. That is a standard convention. I say it's quite convenient that one leg is longer, and that will go in the one that's marked positive. That's the capacitors in. There they are. Electrolytics. So just check you've got the polarity right with those. It's fairly straightforward. And then the next is the inductors, ferrite inductors, and they need to be fitted flush to the board. So let's get those in. So that's the inductors mounted. There they are. You just go in there like this. And the last bit is Q, which is just a jumper to supply power to the LNB volts. So for the time being, I shall just park it. I'll be having this on all the time, but I shall just park it half on, half off, so that it doesn't get lost. And there's probably some testing to do to check the voltage before you do that. So that's it as far as construction is concerned. So I'll give it a bit of a clean up and I'll let you have a look at it. Right, so here we are. So we'll have a quick look underneath to start with. So there's the board. You'll notice there are some spaces which are for future expansion. Things may or may not happen. We'll have to see how that develops. So it is upgradable. So there we have it. So I've just parked the little jumper on the sideways at the moment. Trying to get in a bit closer actually, so you can see that the J2 isn't used at the moment, and a few capacitors there. But all my bags are empty. So there we have it. The next thing is to have a read of the testing and go through that and get some power onto it. Obviously to fit the tuner module and obviously the Nim, but I haven't read the instructions yet, so let's do that first. Right, okay, on to the testing phase now. It's suggested to add the power supply lines under there from the underneath, so as to leave room for a board that may or may not go on the top of that header. So I've done that, and we'll see what's to be done next. I know we have to leave this out for the time being, so let's see what's to be done. Right, so the first test is to have all that like that, and then just apply the voltage, 9 to 15 volts. So let's do that, and we're looking for that LED to light. So switch it on, and that's the first step. A lot of power supplies are isolated, they'll be connected with links in a moment, but that's past step 1. Right, the next step says to check the northwest pads of the switcher for 5.4 to 5.6 volts. So that'll be on there, no doubt. And let's have a look at the meter. 5.5. So excellent. So that's that first stage completed. So the next step is to fit link 1 leaving a little loop so you can adjust the switcher if necessary afterwards, and then to check for 5 volts on TP5V. So let's see what we've got on there. So we're on there, 5 volts, and we've got 4.942. There'll be a bit of a volt in my negative lead actually. A bit of a volt drop on my negative lead. So that's successful. Then we're asked to put a resistor leg into that pin there, which is pin 3 of CN1. So we should have 5 volts on there. So let's measure that and see. Indeed we have. So we're looking good so far. Right, next is to fit link 3, which I've already done. So that's link 3 in. And now we must check for 3.3 and 1 volt. So let's have a look at the 3.3. So there we are, let's have a look. 3.282 on my meter. So that's coming along, and the 1 volt, if I can do it looking through the camera, is 1.003. Close enough in my opinion. So we're doing very well so far. Right, the next step is to fit the USB module, which I've done, and I shall have to move over to a nearer computer to complete the next step, which is just to check the communication between this and the computer. Right, the next thing is to connect the USB to the Nim, to the FT module rather, not the Nim, and we're going to check that out. That should work because this one's worked before. It should now say Nim not found, which is so there we are, Nim not detected, which is fair enough as it hasn't got one. So let's see what's next. So that was successful, so we're going to check now on the Nim pads, just to check those voltages, and 3.3. The next one along is the 1 volt, which is this one here, one north of it. Then turn the board over and check for 3.3. There we are, that's good. On these 2 pins, either side of the gap. So yeah, that seems good. So that's all looking good. And finally, this pad here, which hopefully should be 5 volts. So let's have a look. 4.936 and a half, most likely. So there we are. That's good. So that's all those checks completed. Right. Well, we're getting somewhere now. So the Nim is plugged in, but looking at the text, there are no ground connections to this, so we will have to solder some ground connections to that before proceeding to the next test. Well, you may decide to put some wires across. I've merely bent the tab over and soldered it in position, and done the same to that one, that end, just to give it a little mechanical support. So you could put it on the other side as well, but for the time being, that's we shall leave them on there, just those connections. The other ones, of course, that is some distance away, but indeed you could also I probably will actually link that to give it some bit more mechanical support on that side, but for the time being, for the testing purposes, that will be more than adequate. So let's give it a go. Okay, the bit I've been waiting for, the moment of truth. Here it is, all set up and should be working. So this is the first test. So it's all plugged in, ready to go. I've just attached a small aerial, as I can send a signal locally. So I've set up my transmitter. I've got MiniTiouner loaded, and I've set it to what I use for SQ. It's 1249 4 mega symbol. So that's all going. I've also set up VLC in the background, so if a picture comes through, we'll see that as well. So a bit of a nervous moment, but there we go. So it appears to be working because all the parameters there are right. The RF power is low because there's no preamplifier attached to it, or up converter or anything, but you can see that something's happening. So here we go then, let's press transmit and see what happens. So looking good so far, and indeed we have a picture. 1 2 3, and I'll just check the sound as well. Let's just turn the audio is a bit low on the computer. Let's turn that audio up a little bit. So we got sound as well. We've got a picture. 1 2 3, testing 1 2. 1 2 3, testing 1 2. And we have sound and picture from the MiniTiouner. As you can see, it doesn't get a lot better than that. So excellent, very good indeed. So 100% success first time. I haven't really found any problems to speak of at all, and I have looked for them, but not really found any. So there is the MiniTiouner version 1. That's Brian's board, working extremely well. Let's just check for heat. Cold, cold, cold. Obviously if you were going to use it for satellite stuff, which I'll probably do in a minute, then you would probably need to, or even the other type of tuner, you would probably need to change the heat sinking arrangement, but so far no problem whatsoever. Let's try this one. No, nothing at all. The tuner module's probably warm. Yes, that's warm on its heatsink there, but it's only warm. So yeah, spot on. Not found any problems. As far as I'm concerned, it's good to be released to the world. Excellent job. So there we are. Marvellous.